Okay, I want to get the controversial thing out of the way first. I want to ask you about that. There's been some talk about the foundation receiving some money from places. I think it was, let's see, Saudi Arabia, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, places like that. What's the deal with that? And if any of that money is going back, how can a brother get a piece of that action? Those are my two questions. Clear all that up.
We do get money from other countries, and some of them are in the Middle East. And the money that we raised in the last couple of years for an endowment, so all these programs will run forever, even when I get to the point when I can't raise the money every year, are from people that have helped us before. And I think it's a good thing. For example, the UAE gave us money. Do we agree with everything they do? No, but they're helping us fight ISIS. And they built a great university with NYU, open to people around the world, and they've helped us support the work that this foundation does. The same thing is true. We just had this, Hillary and Chelsea were just up here talking about women and girls. Do I agree with all the foreign policy of Saudi Arabia? No. But I think it's pretty impressive that the recent king who just died built the first co-educational institution in Saudi Arabia, and that they have more women than men in colleges. So what you find is that you got to decide when you do this work,
sure,
whether it'll do more good than harm if someone helps you from another country. But those countries that I've been criticized for include the United Kingdom, Norway, Sweden, the postcode lottery. The Germans came to me and wanted to participate in our agricultural efforts in Malawi because the first 20,000 farmers that we helped increase their incomes in 1 year, 576%. So I think it's worth getting support for that. If we could do that all over the world, and smallholder farmers would be able to feed their own people and begin to export, and we wouldn't have them thrown off the land. So my theory about all this is disclose everything and then let people make their judgments. But I think there are more than 300,000 people, you should know this, who in some form or fashion have contributed money to the work we've done over the years. And I believe we've done a lot more good than harm.
Great.
And I believe this is a good thing. And so I'm going to tell you who gave us the money, and you can make your own decisions.
Make up their mind after that, right. I think that's awesome.
If you look out here, we have people here, students here from 80 different countries. We live in a small world where all the borders look more like nets than walls. And if we can use money to bring people together instead of tear them apart, to build them up instead of pull them down.
And it's nice to make a distinction between politics and something for the better good also, right? Now how
I have a lot of people who helped me who never voted for me, Americans, ardent Republicans.
Now was that after you were president? Because maybe they were happy at that point.
Yeah, they were glad I left.
We'll help you now.
We started our climate change project. Listen to this. We started our climate change efforts with $500,000 each from Barbara Streisand and Rupert Murdoch.
I would have loved to have been at that meeting.
Go figure. So my whole deal is we ought to bring people together across great divides around things that they can agree on and find something to do to make people's lives better.
I agree. Now, it's interesting. You grew up in an era of activism. I mean, today is the 50th anniversary of Selma. The president was there, both presidents, President Obama and Bush. I thought those kinds of things are really great, you know, to see that. What drove you to do this sort of thing? I mean, why aren't you out building houses with Jimmy Carter? Why didn't you do that? I mean, other than the obvious reason, who wants to be out there?
I've actually done it.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, not only with Jimmy Carter, but just out in the country with a 65-year-old man for a living one summer. But that's why I went into politics. All my people were farmers, and I didn't want to work that hard.
Is this the type of thing? Is this the type of thing you always saw yourself doing?
No. No,
That's all. You're keeping it 100.
No, but it's because of Hillary, because she was interested in all this, the whole NGO sector, and was active in it when we met in law school. And when I was a governor, she helped to establish something called the Arkansas Advocates for Families and Children, and she continued to work for other things. Then when I was president, she got me to start meeting all the time when I went to other countries with leaders of the non-governmental organizations as well as the government leaders and the opposition leaders. And I began to appreciate how important people like you are all over the world. And when I left office, I was out of government, and I wanted to get out of it without giving up the ability to have an impact on the things I had always cared about. So I set up this foundation to do that, and it has become my life. It's kind of interesting. When she was a Secretary of State and a senator, I thought it was ironic that her whole life she spent in the non-governmental movement, and I was in politics, and all of a sudden we were
shifted it,
partners. And I kind of like it in this world. I think you're pretty great.
How did it change that dynamic at home? So you're not doing that much important stuff. I'm the senator now.
No, actually, no.
Who was making the coffee in the morning at that point? Right? Okay, there you go.
Actually, got complimented on my coffee just this week. Small victories.
No, go ahead.
No, but it's not really an either or. I mean, I'm really proud of the work she did in public service. I'm proud of the work I did in politics. I liked it. But I love this because, if, for example, as compared with being president, you have less power, but you can have more impact on discrete things, and you can get down to the grassroots in a way that's very difficult to do. It really does matter what the national policies are. It really does matter what countries do together. It matters if we reach an agreement on climate change and keep it. All that matters a lot. But for all of us who are not in positions of political authority, the whole virtue of citizen activism is that you stop making excuses for not doing something just because you can't do everything. And if you look at what technology's done, what the internet has done, there are enough people in this room to move the world. If everybody's interested in doing the same thing, and we create a forum where we can all build on our strengths and bring our ideas to the table, we can crowdfund it. One of the things I'm proudest about is thanks to our university network, we got about $900,000 this year to help finance a lot of these commitments that were made here at CGI. And I hope a lot of the young people here will benefit from that. So I don't think you should think about it as an either or. The world would work better if you had government and the private sector and a really vibrant non-governmental sector all working together in the same way, each doing what they do best. One of the things that we can all do is more easily come up with new ideas. And that's basically what CGI U does. You guys come up with all these amazing ideas.
What were some of the things you really hoped to accomplish when you started out? And do you feel like those things are happening now? Or is there any frustration with anything? Or is it beyond your wildest dreams?
Yes to all those questions. That is, it's beyond my, the Clinton Global Initiative meets at the opening of the UN, and we've had several overseas, one in, we've had them in Hong Kong and in Rio, or Sao Paulo. We're having one in Athens this year, and one in Morocco. They've already made commitments and have been kept that have touched 430 million lives in 180 countries. I think that's pretty good, and we can document it. We've had it evaluated by independent evaluators. And I could give you lots and lots of other examples. That I was just in Haiti, where our Haiti Action Network has made commitments starting before and continuing after the earthquake that when fully implemented in that small country will be worth $500 million. And we could, and you'd be amazed what you can do with just a little bit of money there to create hundreds of jobs and triple incomes and stuff we've done there. It's amazing. And all of it was done in the non-governmental space. So
I'm fascinated by how many times a very small, simple idea just revolutionizes things, makes a big difference. Do you have any examples of anything like that?
I was telling you, we had here at CGI U a few years ago, one of our delegates came up with an idea that would develop a computer app that would enable people in poor countries to evaluate the integrity of drugs that were shipped into the country, because there are many countries where as much as 25% of the imported drugs are contaminated or absolutely just fraudulent.
It's a black market.
And that idea became Sproxel, a private sector company now that's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And when they came here, the people who came here were all just like you, and they didn't intend to come here and make a bunch of money. What they wanted to do was to save more kids' lives, to make sure that people didn't get ripped off when they needed, with their limited money, to know if they bought medicine, it was good medicine. And there are lots of other examples. We were at, a couple of years ago, we were in St. Louis. There was a group from Chicago, from Northwestern, as I remember, or the University of Chicago, that developed something that looked almost like half of an old neon light sign that you'd find on a diner, but it was actually a way to sterilize equipment in hospitals in poor places that didn't have good connections to the electrical grid. And the unit cost was barely $100. And they had found a way, and that's before we mass produced it, to basically dramatically reduce infections from used equipment and materials in hospitals in poor countries throughout the world. I could give you like 100 examples of that's happened just from CGI U since we started doing this. And that's what we try to do. We try to match the ideas with the donors, with the opportunity to implement it, see which ones work and which ones can live and fly.
And I would imagine a lot of the passion comes out of that when people are excited to come up with those ideas and that kind of thing. I want to ask a question about, like with students, how do you convince students? Students are facing like, you know, the most debt that college students have ever faced now, some of the most unemployment coming out of college. It's very daunting for college students. How do you convince them to make a choice between making a living and making a difference?
Well, first of all,
and can they at least get minimum wage for making a difference, right?
First of all, they can make a difference and make a living. And I think we'll come back to the debt. Let's assume you finish, you get your degree, whatever. You can make a difference and make a living by taking a job in which you're involved in a social enterprise, or you become a social entrepreneur. Or you can take a job in which you're not involved in a social enterprise, but you are on the side. And you do it on the weekends or at night, or with or you do it over the internet with like-minded people. There are lots of ways to do this. The great thing about new technology is you could be part of crowdfunding something you believe in half a world away with CrowdRise or Kiva or lots of the other websites. It's not an either-or choice. You know, what I've tried to say to young people at every one of these things we've done is that whether you go into business or academia or professional athletics or you name it, everybody should take some time or some modest amount of money, something, to be a private citizen trying to do public good. Because the strongest societies are those that have functional, capable, honest governments, thriving private economies, and strong non-governmental sectors. That's the best way to solve this. In the absence of the first two, you need the NGO movement even more. So that's what I say. Now on the debt, what I think is going to happen is that we'll have to have more and more and more people who finance their debt with income contingent loans. We started that when I was president. President Obama has dramatically expanded it. There's a move to continue to do that. We should never have anybody drop out of college because they're afraid they can't pay their debt. And if you limited it to a certain fixed percentage of disposable income, no one would ever have to drop out. You should also know that the people most likely to default on their college debt are not those who owe the most money, Actually, the biggest default rates are among people who owe 10 to 20,000, who got so discouraged they thought they could never pay their loans back, so they dropped out. So stay. It's still a good investment.
Stay and make a difference. Yes. Well, I want to thank President Clinton. We're going to wrap this and move to the panel discussion and open this up a little bit more. So let's give the President a nice round of applause before we move on.
Thank you.